Welcome everyone. I'm Oana Preda, representing Stefan Batory Foundation, Active Citizens Fund National in Poland. I'm very pleased to host today's meeting on advocacy and monitoring. And I'm very happy that we have wonderful experts on this topic. So I will quickly remind the agenda. First, we'll listen to Lidia Kuczmirowska from the Academy of Civic Organizations Foundation. She will briefly tell us about the call for proposals on advocacy and monitoring. And then we'll have Tina Diviak from Center for NGOs in Slovenia, an expert on advocacy, legislation for Slovenian civil society organizations and citizen participation. And then Oana Preda, expert from Research Center for Public Participation from Romania. And we will also listen her experience on how to create informal coalition, but also how to fight for citizens' rights to participate in decision-making process in her country. And of course, after each presentation, there will be time for you to ask questions. You can use your camera, voice, but also you can write it on chat. It's also possible. And feel free to, of course, contact me after the meeting if the question comes after it, because it happens, as we all know. And now to feel more maybe comfortable and also cozy, even though it's online space, I would like to ask you to write on chat city or country you are coming from, so we can see from which regions, from which countries do we have participants today. And of course, you can write your name of your organization if it's okay for you. It's still okay also to remain anonymous at the meeting. Now I would like to give the floor to Lidia Kuczmirowska from the Academy of Civic Organizations Foundation, and we will listen to what's the call for proposal and advocacy monitoring is about, and what can we expect from it. So Lidia, screen is yours, because now we use this form.
Yes, I have already occupied the screen. Don't worry, I haven't prepared lengthy presentations, just basic facts about our call for proposal, which is the second call for sectoral projects. And this time it is dedicated to support monitoring and advocacy projects, because within the first call we haven't received enough good proposals focus on monitoring and advocacy activities, and so we decided basically to organize additional proposals exclusively for this advocacy and monitoring projects. And for some reasons I cannot go further with this.
So maybe try to go out from the share screen mode and go back.
Yes.
Sometimes helps the situation.
Stop share. As usually it worked when we were trying it, but now I can present this call for proposals. In fact, without these presentations, because I would like to leave more space for sharing experience from other countries. So probably similarly to other countries, this call for proposals is focused on changing legal, social, economic and political environment for civil society activities, and many organizations doubts if it makes sense in a current political context to start this kind of activities, but we believe that we still should be present, active, and care about having our voice heard in a way. So we assume that some of this project may fail in this sense, that the organizations will actually do not change a particular law, but we think that even making some efforts will be very important this time. Based on our experience in the first call, we would like to pay more attention of potential applicants to understand the idea of the sectoral projects, because in this first call, some of those projects that were submitted to us were more like a thematic project. So for us, it is important that this monitoring and advocacy is really aimed at improving situation for civil society activities, also for activities of just different citizens initiatives. And it is quite open. So I don't know, any law, any public policy that refers to activities of the non-profit sector is qualified for being supported within this call. What is important for us that this project are not limited to working out new propositions, analyzing data, producing very useful reports, but that they will go further. So they will take care about sharing the results, but also communicating with decision makers, with opinion leaders, and basically exposing problems to different interest groups that some of organizations will also use different legal procedures to change the current situation. So it is important that these projects are not projects, as we call them, for a drawer. So publishing the data, analyzing data is not enough. You have to go further to actively promote your proposition. It is also important that we are not that interested in capacity building this time, because in the first call we received a lot of proposals aimed at capacity building. So this time it is not about capacity building, even within this monitoring and advocacy area. And our basic concern is that this projects will be really sectoral. So, as I said, organizations and activist groups will be kind of direct beneficiaries of all these activities. Basic principles of this call are similar to the first call. An organization may receive a grant up to 125,000 euro. The project may last from 1 year to 30 months. In addition, each applicant may apply for a grant for capacity building, but only for the applicant and partners' capacity building, plus additional amount is also available for partnerships with different entities from donor states. And so now the competition, the call for proposals is open. 1 month is left for submitting proposals. We assume that the first project may be launched in the beginning of July. So this is my brief introduction. So to make you sure that you are attending the proper webinar, not on something else. Anna, thanks.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Do you have any quick question on the call for proposal? if yes, that we have like one possibility to ask this question. You can also use our chat. Lydia will stay with us so you can also like ask her directly using our chat. Okay, I don't see anyone raising hands or looking like to take the floor. So thank you, Lydia, for explaining us the way this call for proposals is constructed. And now I would like to invite Tina Divjak from Slovenia, from the Center for NGOs Slovenia. Sorry for not pronouncing Slovenian name of your organizations. And floor screen is yours, Tina.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for pronouncing my name right. This is something that I cannot say about Polish names usually, so good for you. I will try to share my presentation. We'll see if it works. If not, it's also okay. So, yeah. Okay, very shortly about what is CNVOS. CNVOS is a national NGO umbrella organization, similar to Polish OFOP, for example, but bigger. Also relatively, if we compare the number of members, for example, in Slovenia is much smaller than Poland. You probably know we have altogether only 2 million of inhabitants. So we have more than 1,400 members, and these are not only individual NGOs, but also their thematic networks, for example. So we could say that we cover directly or indirectly about 10,000 NGOs in Slovenia, which is approximately half of them. We have 10 employees and permanent external co-workers. On the European level, we work a lot with the European Civic Forum, and we are also very active in the Western Balkan region, as this is our previous home region. So we are also very active in the Balkan Civil Society Development Network. What do we do? We are National NGO Information Center. We gather information on all open calls for proposals, for example, on the local, national, European, international level, and sharing this information not only about the calls, but everything that is going on in Slovenia and abroad that is relevant for the Slovenian NGO sector. Then we have a lot of different trainings for NGOs, the whole spectrum from the strategic planning, monitoring and evaluation, advocacy, project management, like everything that actually one organization needs, the knowledge it needs for functioning properly. Then we are also an advocacy center. For example, in the last 10 years, we've been actively involved, not to say we pretty much wrote the law on NGOs, the strategy on development for NGOs, and law on associations, law on volunteering. These are basic NGO laws. But apart from that, we also actively participate annually in about, let's say, 30 legislation procedures in order to influence different laws with amendments. We were very active also with the anti-corona measures, for example. Our advocacy efficiency is approximately 60%. So which means that, let's say, on the basic legislation, pretty much everything goes through, but on the not basic legislation, for example, labor law or something, then it's different. But still, we strive to at least to fight for non-discriminatory articles against NGOs in comparison to the business sector, for example. And here I mostly speak about anti-corona measures. For example, if something was discussed as a support measure for the business sector, we wanted the same also for the NGO sector, and mostly we were successful. Then we also have a counseling center, like free, not green, legal and aid, project counseling, financial, tax, accounting, Then we are also a very active promoter of the transparent and high quality NGO operation. We developed our own quality assurance system based on the ISO 9001. We are developing the NGO Navigator. This is a platform for which the donors will be able to compare efficiency and transparency of different humanitarian organizations, for example. And then we are also National Project and Regranting Center. We are a fund operator for the Active Citizens Fund, similar as batteries for the national Poland. But we, in all these years, gained a lot of knowledge on public calls for proposals. So we also act as consultants to municipalities and different ministries on how to write project proposals. So, as our topic today is advocacy, and for us being an NGO umbrella organization, advocating for the NGO sector is our mission. This is what we do, this is who we are. This is all we think about, actually, more or less 24/7. So our basic areas are everything that is connected with the NGO operation, public participation, and public funding of NGOs. I will at the end share one very recent example on how we advocated and lobbied for the against abolishment of the NGO fund. But as Anna asked me to share our experience, what is needed for successful advocacy, for successful lobbying, I gathered some of our, let's say, tips and advices for this. To be successful advocate, in our opinion, data is the most important thing. Without data, you don't have arguments. That's why, for example, and now I'm talking about NGO operations. So, for example, basic legislation like loan associations, then tax treatments, employments, volunteering. We need to know all historical developments. So what happened, for example, when we became independent, the tax incentive for the corporate donations was 10%, and now it's only 5%. Why is this so? What happened? You know, in order for us to turn the trend around. And then it is very important to know, to have international comparative studies to see what is happening in other countries. But what happened actually was that maybe when I started in working in the NGO sector, this was like immediately before our joint accession to the EU. Then we made the comparative studies in order to improve things. You know, what do we need? You know, we took best practices from, let's say, EU-wide. What we are doing now is following other countries in order not to take in order to recognize threats, for example. And this is for well, it's very sad, but this is how it is, so that we know, you know, what is happening in the Balkans, and I'm not here talking about only Hungary, Poland, but also UK, for example. Their changes to the loan lobbying are devastating for NGOs, for example. So we need to know this in order to be prepared, in order to jump immediately when somebody in Slovenia would start to think about similar changes, for example. Then, when you have the data, you need, of course, clear objective. What do you want? What do you want to change? And for this, you need solid arguments, and not only yours. For example, we want this because of this, and that, but you need to also think about contra arguments to play a role of devil's advocate in a way to be prepared. Okay, so what will Janša say? This is our famous prime minister of the right-wing political party, not very friendly towards NGOs. So we need to always think of what will they say? What will the Twitter right-wing community, how will they react? What will we do? How will we, you know? So in that we are trying to be as prepared as possible for all the, because if we jump immediately with the counter argument on their argument, we are more not convinced. What is the word? Not convincible. You know, we can
encouraging, or like,
you know, we have better chance to convince enough MPs. Then what is also very important is realistic proposal. So what can go through? And I don't mean a realistic proposal in our currently bad environment, but objectively. For example, I said that we currently have like 5% of tax incentive for corporate donations. We will not propose 20% because they will say you are crazy. You know, you don't even know how the tax system works. But we can propose 10 or 7 just to, you know, open, like make a small step. Then another thing for us is very important that we are experts on the NGO things, but we need also to behave like this. You know, we know, our attitude is we know everything and we have the answer on NGO related things, not on the nuclear science, but on the, you know, and also we always answer without the text, with data. So we are behaving like experts and not like activists. I don't mean that activism is bad, but this is just not our thing. Because, and sometimes we cooperate with more activistic NGOs, but they are then on the front with their guerrilla fights, but we don't do that because we are experts, and this is we chose to be like that. But this also means that if Janša does something good, we say thank you, Janša, although we don't like him particularly, but it is we need to behave as objectively as possible. So when there is something to criticize, we criticize, but when there is something to praise, we praise. So for example, I just did the study on the anti-COVID measures, for example, and Slovenia has the highest number of the different anti-COVID measures to support NGOs. And we can always say this, yes, in this, we are the best, for example, and it's fair to say this. Then what is also an additional thing is clear advocacy strategy. So you need to think about, this is our objective. Who is our target? Do we start with public officials, or we do, or this is something for the parliament, or this is something for the government? The most, at least in Slovenia, what the most common mistake is that NGOs write directly to the prime minister or even the president of the republic that has no power whatsoever. So why do you do that? In order to change the law, you need to talk to public officials, to those that are actually writing the law. Because if you, so you need to start on the ground, not high, so high that actually there is no link between, for example, prime minister and some public officials, official on the Ministry of Labor, for example. So you need to know who is your target, and then choose your activities carefully based on the analysis of the environment, what will go through. But if there is, for example, if you only need one amendment in the law, then you don't need the whole media thing. But when you need, you want to change more articles in the law, for example, then you need bigger engines. So you need to adapt. And then another thing is also willingness to compromise. Because, of course, we are here. If we want that, we need to compromise to be here. So in order just to move forward, we cannot just say, okay, if you don't want our proposals, then we don't want anything. We need to be able to compromise because maybe at the beginning we did not think about trade unions, for example, or something, or that, firstly, we wanted to do something for the whole NGO sector, but then it turned out that we can't, that we can only do something for the public benefit organizations. And then we say, okay, better something than nothing. So it's, you know, you need all the time, you need to very actively actually follow what is happening and react. And then some words on lobbying. I don't know why, but lobbying in the NGO sector is a bad word. For us, it's not. It's extremely useful, very, very positive. And it needs to be clear that the lobbying is a legitimate advocacy activities, the same as campaigning or whatever. Bad lobbying is only lobbying that is against the law, for example, and we have a law on lobbying, and it's clear what is allowed and what is not. Lobbying is not corruption. Lobbying is just, you know, directly, personally presenting your agenda to the targets, to those that have the power to do something about your ideas. For successful lobbying, you need broad phone book, a lot of contacts. You need to know who to call or whom to call, that he or she will call the one that you can't maybe, but you really need. This is called tree of influence. For example, we want something, and then we always ask, okay, who can influence this? Do we know him or her or not? Okay, we don't. Who does? Well, usually we know a lot of people. So when we started, let's say 10, 15 years ago, it was like that. Then every time when you meet somebody new, being public official, MP, minister, don't be formal. I mean, be formal at the beginning, but as soon as possible, start to talk about family, children, skiing, I don't know, because then you can have some joint thing, and the next time you call this person, you can say, oh yes, how are you, do you sleep already, for example, or not? We are not sleeping, you know, that you have something to break the ice. And for example, in Slovenia, we see clear difference between organizations that get this importance of being informal and those that stick to formalities, because we go a lot further. As I already said, carefully choosing your targets, because you don't have all the time in the world and you don't have all the money in the world. So you need to focus who can help you. And based on that, you choose your strategy. I talk a lot, so I will just now jump to the example very shortly. From 2018, from when the Lone NGO was adopted, also the National NGO Fund was established. It's worth approximately 5 million euros annually, and it's dedicated for the development of NGOs. And the money goes from the 0.5% law. All taxpayers in Slovenia can dedicate their 0.5% of tax to some NGOs, but only approximately 45% of people do so. And the rest, so the money that is not dedicated directly to NGOs, based on this law, goes to the NGO fund. And you can, I mean, it is logical that SDS, the leading political party, is not a big fan of the NGO law, of the NGO fund. And there have been like 3 tries to abolishment, and the last was as part of the anti-corona measures, let's abolish the NGO fund. This was in December. December, what we did is that the Minister of Public Administration which is responsible for this fund and for the re-granting the money from this fund, called us after the government session on Saturday in afternoon, like, oh my God, what they did. And immediately we said, okay, we need to get this out to the media, because during the last, we have now reaching 1 year of this government, and there have been many fights with media, with NGOs. You know this, I don't need to explain this. It's very similar to in other Eastern European countries. So media is very, very open to host us, to spread our stories. So we said we need to get this to the media immediately before they get the whole draft of law, so that we start the discussion. And so we published the notice and sent the news to all the medias like in 2 hours. And then we prepared all data about this NGO fund, because we knew that they will say this is only for the bigger Ljubljana organizations, this is only for advocacy, blah, blah, blah. So we prepared everything, to present that there are a lot of different beneficiaries all over Slovenia. We also, because they at the same time, when they wanted to abolish the NGO fund, they also increased the percentage to 1% of donation. And they said, let people choose. And then we showed that, for example, some organizations that were supported from the NGO fund, for example, those that take care of alcohol addicts, for example, they don't get anything from the tax donations, for example. Then we were thinking about what to do with social media, especially Twitter, because we know that Twitter is for the populistic political parties very strong tool. And we said, okay, we cannot answer all the bullshit that is happening there, but we need to answer to influencers, right-wing influencers. So we did that. We chose like 5 persons, and when they had their like fake news quick thing tweet, we always answered with data, like very like long, photos of stuff. And this was actually, so we replied with facts, and this response was actually shared in media in real time. And then we said, okay, we also need a petition letter to MPs, because the law was in the parliament, and this was Christmas Day actually, and we started to collect signatures like on the 23rd of December, and by 26th we got almost 500 NGOs signed the signatures, and this is like really a lot for Christmas in Slovenia. And then what also happened is that by now NGOs were already accustomed, okay, you need to call your MP. And for example, one of them said that by 9 o'clock in the morning, he got more than 15 calls of different NGOs. So we had this like, a group of people calling. And also what we did, our strategy was attack the leading coalition party, but be friendly to other coalition parties, because we needed at least one, apart from the opposition party, at least one coalition party to support the amendment to delete this article about the abolishment. So this, and at the end we were successful. We still have the NGO fund, but we'll see, until the next fight. So you can see that based on this example, how we use everything that I said before, this how we acted in this case, for example. So I talked too much. I will conclude now. Sorry and thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Having such a strong fighter for NGO legislation is, I think, Slovenian organizations can be really sleep well, because having Tina on board means like the whole legal conditions for NGO can remain, let's say, friendly, for NGO friendly. Okay, do you have any, thank you Tina for examples, also like for your recommendations, but also for this case study. I think we all countries from the region can struggle with the same approach, and so that's why it's really needed, this kind of positive also examples, and congratulations, of course. Do you have any questions to Tina? Right after her presentation. I see Litka has a question. I see Agnieszka, and I don't see anyone else. So of course, so please, Litka, you are the first one.
Yeah, thanks. I have a question about your strategy of building legitimacy for your efforts, because even in the last, in the example you have just shared with us, you mentioned about engaging NGOs in signing petition, calling MPs and so on. But what are, I would say, the most effective ways of building legitimacy? And what would you recommend to organizations that are not, for example, an umbrella organizations that are not so well recognized as you, as a kind of infrastructure organizations known from its advocacy effort? Because I think it is quite important when you present and push forward your proposition. So what would you recommend, and what are what is your experience?
Yes, thank you for this. I actually had this written down by hand, but I haven't seen it to say. There are several things, actually. I don't think that you can become a successful advocacy organization overnight. Your image and relations with other NGOs and decision makers or public officials are building years. So this, what we, for us, it's of course easier, because being an umbrella organization, I have also a huge service part. So we are helping CSOs all the time. So they are also, by now, but we needed to fight huge fights with the sector as well. You are not a representative, we don't think like that. But for the organization to advocate either for the sector or for some of its causes, I would say constituency building is the key. Advocacy is not done in the office. Advocacy is done on the ground, having contacts. This is one thing. And other thing is communication, understandable, simple communications. Also, even if the thing is very, very complicated to explain, you need to find some aspects of it to present it to the public and to those it concerns. We have a saying in Slovenia is, okay, when you wrote something, and now we need a communication officer to write this thing in the language of the MPs, which means in the language of my grandmother, because they are, so it's, but only when the message is so clear that everybody is able to understand it, you can have a successful fight. But constituency building, transparency, be open about everything, especially in the times as we are living now, that attacks and pressures and smear campaigns are like everyday modus operandi of the leading political parties. If you are transparent, if you publish everything about your finances, about your people, about your activities, about your impact, about your outcomes, this is the only way that you can fight against such attacks, and at the same time you build trust building and constituency building. This is something that it is extremely important. So go out of your offices. This is the shortest way to say this.
Now when we are all working from home, our office, yes, as means our own home. Thank you very much, Tina, for the answering for this question. And now I remember that Agnieszka had also.
Yes, I have one question to you, Tina. I have a question. How do you build up trust with NGOs? And how do you take care of internal decision-making procedures among NGOs? I'm really curious about it.
Well, we, like many, as I said, because like 15 years ago, we will only, let's say, capacity building sector organization without this advocacy part. And then when we saw that there is a lack of such organization, the most logical thing for us was that CNVUS is the main advocate for the sector. And at the beginning, it was really difficult because there were some other organizations that like felt entitled to do this activity. But we said, we are not representative organization. We don't function like trade unions, for example. So that's why participation in decision making, also the top to bottom on the NGO side, is very important. And what we did is like engage for 2 years in consultations with the sector. So what are the main points? And then we actually passed as the sector the main, we called it like a roadmap or something, I don't remember anymore, but these were like the main things that we as a sector want to achieve, like higher tax incentives, loan NGOs, NGO fund, this kind of stuff. So this was debated on the sectoral level. But then what we do, for example, for the fight against, for the concrete. So this is our, let's say, umbrella work plan. And then on the everyday level, we don't need, this is then only us, let's call us secretariat of the network. We don't have, let's say, decision making with members for each and every, so we don't do this anymore. We did this at the beginning to gain the trust, but now organizations already trust us to do the right thing, but it took us 6-7 years probably. When we also explained, what we do, why we do this, why we do that, for example. But now this is not necessary anymore, because we gained trust, but we gained trust with our transparency and with the results that we achieved, because we also said that we will always say, okay, this is what happened. This is the benefit for NGOs, and we did this. CNVUS did this, so that we were building our image in the eyes of NGOs.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions to Tina? Also, you can of course use our chat if you don't want to take the floor. Okay, if not, so we are moving to, thank you, Tina, for your presentation plus answering question. And now I'm really pleased to introduce to you another expert, Oana Preda. So we are moving from Slovenia to Romania. And Oana represents a resource center for public participation, CeRe and Antam. So informal coalition fighting for citizens' right to participate in decision-making process in Romania. So Oana, floor is yours.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me. Actually, I'm sorry I'm not in Poland, for real, just online, but that it is what it is. I will also present one of our advocacy efforts, but before that, a little bit of context. So we are a Romanian NGO, a resource center for public participation. In short, our short name is CeRe, which in English means demand, and this is not by chance or just an acronym. It is because we believe that citizens have the right to demand accountability from state institutions, and they have the right to demand public officials to do their job. So we act in this area of participatory democracy. We have a quite large community organizing program. We directly work with citizens and help them get organized and advocate for their communities. We also offer advocacy assistance to NGOs in their efforts. We promote advocacy and activism as a means to bring about change. And we also our own advocate for more transparency and inclusiveness of state institutions. In this last direction, we facilitate a new informal coalition, which is called TamTam, the NGOs for Citizens group. We gathered together to defend civic space in Romania like a couple of years ago, when the external environment for NGOs and for activists was, let's say, less favorable. We had a lot of stigma coming from politicians and from some media, many legislative attempts to deteriorate the legal environment for NGOs, many abuse for NGOs and activists. And to give just an example, a high official of the Romanian government found out the mental health diagnosis of one protester and published on the internet medical documents of that person at that time. So we gathered together in this effort to defend the civic space, the public space in Romania, and we set up to three directions. One was advocacy, basically to prevent deterioration of legislation, communication about the role of NGOs and activists, and solidarity with the sector. Fortunately, soon, due to some external factors, the context improved significantly, and we found some open doors for communication. Less abuse, or mostly local, but not so generalized as it used to be. And we decided that even if we gather together in like the defense mood, trying to prevent, we decided to switch to a new strategy and try to enlarge the space for participation. And our priority became to improve the law on freedom of public assembly. Just to give you a bit of context, the law in place, which is still in place, would allow the state institution to ban almost any protest because it's too close to the, I don't know, public transportation station, because it could harm the activity of a public institution. They can find in the law reasons to ban any protest, basically. We had in the last couple of years, before we started our advocacy campaign, we actually had a lot of abuses, a lot of fines to people participating in protests, many protests that were banned, even some very violent reaction to a larger protest organized in Bucharest. So we took this law as our first advocacy aim. Our first step was to decide within the coalition on a set of principles and major areas for change. And even if it wasn't like an internal activity in our campaign, I need to mention that because it was quite a difficult process, and also because it was later proved to be very important, because we had the legitimacy of the support of the organization in the coalition, and also their agreement and some sort of a mandate for them. In this step, we also decided on key issues for negotiation. We decided to go with wishful thinking, but we also set up some thresholds for further discussions with politicians. And it was good that we did that in the group, and everybody agreed on the major points. Then we petitioned all the political parties, presenting them with our intentions and briefly presenting the principles and the major areas for change on this law. And then we tried to approach the parties individually and set up meetings with all the political parties. We even tried to approach the political party that was in charge in time of abusing the protest. And we wanted to do that because they were, at that time, they were very relevant in numbers in terms of decisions in the parliament, and also because we wanted to give them the opportunity to prove that they can be a democratic party. Fortunately, we managed to have individual meetings with all the parties represented in the parliament at that time, minus one, I think, except one of the parties. And we succeeded to find supporters everywhere to agree with the need to change the law, and also with the main areas of change that we discussed with them. And among these possible supporters, we also identified two champions. Fortunately, these two MPs, were from different political parties. Actually, they were enemy political parties. One was from the Liberal Party and the other one was from Social Democratic Party. And I don't know if it was fortunately or unfortunately, none of them were leaders in their party. They were just maybe the second level in their party. But not being leaders, they could leave aside their general differences and work together on our proposal. With their help, we organized a debate with some more members of the parliament. And within that debate, the discussion, everybody agreed to give conditional support, but they asked us to go forward with the actual legislative proposal. And we, having this conditional agreement, we got back home to write the actual proposal. Then again, endless discussions in our coalition followed, just to put together a text that everybody would agree with. We sent it back to our MPs and had zero answer. We went back then to our main supporters in the parliament, and we agreed that they would put together a WhatsApp group to invite fellow MPs from different political parties that previously expressed their support, and organized some Zoom meetings. At that time, we were very lucky that COVID-19 was here and we were under lockdown. It was at the beginning, and people were not yet, they did not yet know what to do with their time. So in this in this way, we managed to have I don't know, maybe there were 5-7 meetings on Zoom with 5 to 7 MPs, and we were 5 people from different NGOs to discuss our legislative proposal article by article, and to negotiate everything and decide on everything together. By the end of this process, we had a legislative proposal agreed by MPs from 4 political parties. they were willing to officially submit it to the parliament, but not before we put it on. We publicized it and invited other organizations to support it, and also to read it and to come with their own, I don't know, recommendations for improvement. After that, the MPs, the members of the parliament, officially submitted it to the parliament. It passed the first chamber of the parliament, and now it's in the second chamber for debate. In the meantime, we had the elections, and now we have new MPs. And we already started the discussions with them to make sure we still have their support and so on. So we really hope that in a couple of months, maybe we will have the new law passed. Thinking about this timeline to present you the main key moments of our campaign, I also thought about what made this a success. Even if we don't have yet the law, I believe it's a success. And when Tina gave her tips and tricks, I related to most of them. I would also add that it was important that it was a coalition effort, and even though the members of parliament did not recognize us as a coalition, they recognize the names of the organizations that are supporting the bill, which was quite important. It was also relevant that we tried to go to all the political parties and try to treat them equally. So we make sure that our law does not become a reason for fight between political parties. Then again, it was important that we managed to have these inside champions that could help us move along the things where we were stopped. It was also good that we had an agreement on main principles and major areas of change before going into a discussion on specific articles on the law. And this was also good because the members of the political parties felt that they are part of this before it became a final document, and they could feel some ownership in that. So I think it was also a good strategy, I would say. But besides this, I also relate with Tina tips and tricks, as I mentioned, and yeah, I think they were very useful also. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to respond.
That's time for you. Thank you very much, Oana. Wonderful story, and also like congratulations, but also like I think a lot of I was taking notes, and a lot of, let's say, lessons learned for other countries and organizations that want to follow your path and approach. So time for your questions, either here or on chat. I see Agnieszka, I see Anka, and I don't see anyone else. So Agnieszka, floor is yours.
Okay, so my question is, what stereotypes concerning civic sector are Romanian organizations dealing with? Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Could you repeat, please?
Yes.
Concerns?
What I'm asking about stereotypes concerning civic sector in Romania. What stereotypes are you dealing with?
Well, foreign agents bought by Soros and mean foreign forces that wanted to destroy our country's morals and everything. What else? Paid protesters, people that are paid. There were some amounts even said, like it was like 30 euros for person, 20 euros for dog coming to a protest. What else? I don't know how to translate that. Maybe Romanian fellows would help me. Sexomarxiști. Yeah, basically Soros people.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Interesting,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. But actually, currently, this is not so widespread that it used to be. But I believe it can come back anytime, because we went past that through that during our history with ups and downs.
Can I just add on what Oana said, maybe?
Go ahead, of course.
Because we all know that we all face these things, you know, Soros and stuff. And here in Slovenia is mostly also that we are like linked to public money, and we just spend it on our salaries and we don't do anything about it. But when you are advocating, you need to be pragmatic in a way. There are many times when we have, for example, some proposal and we are not front runners, but we put like Red Cross, Caritas, or you know, some humanitarian organization, especially now during the COVID crisis, those that were especially present and have general positive public image as first runners, spokespersons, first signatories in the letter, so that we are not, although we did everything. You know, we wrote everything, we prepared everything, but Red Cross is the one sending the thing to the parliament, for example, because then immediately you take some wind away from the populistic parties. This is just what I wanted to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this tip to be more, let's say, smartly manage this situation. And sorry, Nika, that I didn't see your hand rising. So your time for a question is right after Anka's time. So Anka, I remember that you had a question after Agnieszka. Go ahead.
Yes. I had a question addressed not only to the speakers, but to the participants here in the meeting, considering that considering all those common challenges for NGO sector in our countries and in other Eastern European countries. Have you considered so far in applying for a project, for a grant in Active Citizen Fund, either in Poland or in Romania? Have you considered finding a partner in Romania or a partner in Poland, another NGO from those countries, or I don't know, maybe an NGO from Slovenia or from other countries that already experience maybe some challenge that you want to address now?
Wonderful question. Thank you very much, Anka, for this. And so also feel free. Of course, just very quickly answering and encouraging to build international coalition. Of course, it's possible to apply as a Polish civil society organization, having partner from Slovenia or from Romania or from other beneficiary states. It's not only Norway, Iceland, or Liechtenstein. Of course. Is there anyone who would like to share? I see Lika.
Yeah, I may share from a different perspective, because my organization is a member of a consortium that is the operator of the program in Poland. And as I noticed, the majority of partners in case of the call we are responsible for comes from Norway and from Poland. And in a way, it's a pity that, I don't know, there is not so many linkages, for example, with Romanian organizations, or people were just, in a way, I would say, pragmatic, that it is easier for them to establish a partnership with either Polish organization, or it is more useful for them, in a way, to establish a partnership with Norwegian organizations, because then they may receive additional money. So somehow my answer is not a good example of concrete cases of cooperation between organizations from Poland and Romania, and maybe it is something we could work together during these programs, since we have still a few years ahead of us.
Yeah, as far as we are concerned, we are involved in many exchange programs with partners from different countries. When it comes about learning from each other and things like that. Yet when it comes about advocacy and monitoring, most of the issues we are working for are relevant, are like national issues, and in such cases, partnership with local NGOs come more handy, more suitable.
Yeah, right. And also the political situation is more comparable.
Yeah.
And that would be a huge, let's say, capacity for the project.
Yeah.
I saw that Stefania Andersen wanted to take the floor. Stefania, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just build a bit on the same question and turn the question toward the operator, in the sense that what would you find valuable into such a project where you will want to have partners from Romania and Poland? Would you value just exchange or experience and learning from the two countries? Or would you appreciate a kind of a project in which you'll have the organization from Poland fighting for something locally, and then you have a organization in Romania, like fighting either on the same subject at local level or national level, and hence you'll have this consistent national advocacy work in each country. Would that be relevant for your call for proposal, or you would just accept just the learning and the exchange? So I don't know if my question is clear. It's just to see how much of the work that you put in a project can it actually be implemented outside Poland. So what would be your approach to this?
I can answer on behalf of the Romanian fund operator. Unfortunately, because of the program rules, of the donors rules, it can be supported just a small proportion, let's say, of activities which are not implemented in Romania. The majority of the activity has to be implemented in Romania. That's why I think we can consider mostly the exchange of experience, the transfer of expertise, lessons. There could be supported for sure some participation in external events and meetings and so on, but not in parallel activities of both, I don't know, Polish NGO and Romanian NGO developed in parallel in those both countries in same proportion. So yes, at this moment, it's difficult to support something like this, but I think that we can move a little bit forward with encouraging those partnerships, with encouraging NGO to work together, especially on topics that are similar or approached similarly by MPs, by, I don't know, government and so on in both countries or in several countries. And the recent history shows that some challenges travel across those countries and it's good to be prepared and to get some advice from or tips and tricks from other NGOs.
Okay, thank you very much. I saw that Tina wanted to take the floor, and Litka.
Yeah, I just had a thought that yes, under the, let's call them normal project, maybe not, but for the countries such as Romania, Poland, now Hungary, that have bigger programs, meaning also bigger budget for the regional civil society initiatives, for example, I don't see actually any formal problem, but I don't, as far as I know, nobody actually thought so, to do some kind of a joint, like the regional fund that was like huge and regional, but that some fund operators with bigger budgets come together and create internal regional fund for, let's say, civic space projects. This could work under this, for example. I'm just saying that it's
You're
possible.
getting creative now, so
you need to be creative in order to steer the progress.
Yeah. That's a good idea to go to the FMO with. So yeah.
Exactly, and also we as fund operators just quickly take the floor and add like an idea also. We have having this extra funds for regional initiatives. Project promoters can also apply, but also give us any ideas for the what is needed when it comes to study tours, job shadowing, other initiatives, or other let's say peer-to-peer learning methods that are available. Sorry, I saw that Litka wanted to take the floor, or I misunderstood you.
I'm lost. Should I add to answering the question of Stefania, or ask a question for Oana? Because I can do both, in fact, because I have a kind of similar opinion to Anka, because we are just a national fund. So these grants that are available for partnership activities are not really big. And this is just a small, in fact, portion of money the organization may apply for in Poland, and I think that it is probably the most important limitation of thinking about joint activities, and I think it is why it's so often I'm saying about case of Poland. It is focused on exchange of experience. But I think that it could be a topic really for regional initiatives, which is a completely different story, because the mechanism of this regional initiatives is different. So it is not that encouraging, Stefania, I think, what I'm saying. But coming to questions for Oana, coming back to question, I have a question about the specifics of a campaign, advocacy campaign conducted during pandemia, because I agree with what Tina said previously, that it is important to go out of your office. And it is quite difficult to go out of your office during COVID time. But your example, Anna, was about a campaign conducted now, when we all have to deal with different COVID limitations. You said also that in a way, initially, it worked well for you, because people locked in their homes have more time, and it was easier for you to approach, for example, different parties' leaders. But what were your tips for those organizations that decide to run an advocacy campaign during COVID times?
Mm-hmm.
What worked for you? What didn't work? What would you recommend?
Yeah. First of all, ours was done partially before COVID, and we had all the initial meetings with the political parties face to face before COVID. Then during COVID, we had these Zoom meetings, but we already had set up relationship with the MPs, and it was much easier because they already knew us, we had already met, and now again we are going to the parliament, mostly offline, sometimes online also, but we are already we are now going there if it's the case. In terms of advice, I don't know, other than using different communication platforms such as Zoom and Google Meets, I think it could be a little bit more realistic than in person. It's easier for them to respond to I know, a proposal to meet online than to a proposal to meet offline. So yeah, probably replacing face-to-face with a screen between us. I don't know. This is how we are doing. But here in Romania, I don't know why the public institutions are the only organizations that organize offline meetings. So if I was to meetings this month, it was at the City Hall and the Parliament, and no, I haven't been at the government, but City Hall, Parliament, and I know Social Assistance Department, where we went in person. So they started, I don't know how it's there, but here.
Okay, thank you for answering the question. And do you have any other questions to our experts, to Oana and to Tina? Or maybe like to, do you have any general idea or reflection on the advocacy or monitoring? It's also time to share your own experience or reflection. I don't see anyone responding. Of course, this meeting is being recorded, and we will publish it with Polish subtitles soon on our websites and social media. So you can also go back. You can always go back to it anytime you want. For example, while preparing the application for the call for proposal on advocacy and monitoring, there is still 1 month to do it. So we encourage you to take this time. This is said to be our last call for proposals when it comes to Active Citizens Fund National. Of course, you can always submit it into regional fund, but when it comes to Active Citizens Fund, it's the last, but not least, of course, call for proposals. So I don't see anyone who would like to take the floor, and also I see that there are no questions in the chat. So I would like to thank you once again, Litka, Tina, Oana. Thank you for your precious time. And
Thank you.
And I think that civil society organizations in your country can be proud for you as let's say protectors of their rights in Slovenia and in Romania. And I invite you for our second meeting, which will be on the 18th of February, so in 2 days, and we'll have also 2 experts from Romania and 1 from Norway, so you can also learn more from their experience. More information you can find on our website. So thank you very much. Have a nice day in Warsaw. It's a beautiful sunny winter day with snow, still with snow, so a perfect time to also enjoy the winter. So thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, and see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.